All right, breaking news. Donald Trump has some advice for all pregnant women. Grab your wives, grab your daughters, grab your granddaughters. A warning, this video contains elements of sarcasm throughout. So if you're in pain, Dr. Donald Trump, the first of his name, has some advice for you. Tough it out, buttercup. Tough it out. Whatever you do, you can't use Tylenol, a drug that was introduced in 1955, or your baby might come out autistic. I don't want to misquote the president here. So here's what he actually said.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child a Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child.
You heard him. Tough it out, buttercup. This is for your baby. Let's go through an exercise, okay? Let's go through an exercise. Let's see. I want to make a list of what kind of pain women feel in the different trimesters of pregnancy. Women who are watching, get in the comments right now. Give me a list. First trimester, what did you feel? Second trimester, break that down for me. I want to see in the comments. I don't know if I'll do justice to this, but here's what I know from being around pregnant women. Feel free to tell me if you had something that isn't on my list. And men as well, get in the comments. I want to see how present you were for your wives during their pregnancy. Let me know in the comments what they felt when they were pregnant. So here's what I found. In the first trimester, you get headaches, which are caused by hormonal surges, increased blood volume, and dehydration, probably from all that vomiting you were doing, right? Breasts also get very tender as well. You get cramping because of uterine expansion, and implantation can also mimic menstrual cramps as well. Menstrual cramps are kind of fun, right? I'm being sarcastic. And you also get fatigue. You get nausea pretty often, accompanied by body aches due to stress on your body. Here's the thing I did. I asked AI what that might feel like for men. And the AI said that would feel like a persistent muscle spasm accompanied by a migraine all day long. Woof. Nasty. Anyways, second trimester, I've been told this is probably the best time in most pregnancies when you remove the round ligament pain, which feels like sharp stabbing pain in the lower abdomen or groin as your ligaments stretch. Yikes. Yeah. You also get back pain due to shifting center of gravity and loosening joints. You get radiating pain from your lower back down to the leg due to uterine pressure. Leg cramps also often happen at night, which is caused by circulation changes and pressure on your nerves. But apparently, this is the best most women feel in pregnancy. I don't have to come up with an analogy here. Many men have experienced back pain in their lifetimes or sciatica. Dr. Donald Trump says you tough that shit out. You tough it out. Oh yeah, let's get to the third trimester. This is the one. Your baby is almost here. At this point, you just want that sucker out of here. You just want that sucker to get out of you as soon as they'll let you. You're feeling pelvic pressure as the baby's weight presses on your bladder and your joints and your nerves. You get contractions that feel like intense cramps. You get swelling and joint pain due to fluid retention and increased blood volume. You also won't get a lot of sleep either because you can't really find a comfortable position and you got to pee all the time. For men, that might feel like arthritis, flare-ups, or fluid overload that athletes might feel. So yeah, Dr. Donald Trump and all the good men behind him are telling you women to tough that out. Tough it out. Otherwise, you may be responsible for birthing an autistic child. Here's where this gets wild. And I think the good Dr. Donald Trump hasn't considered this small, tiny issue. Assuming you can't tough it out because you're a wuss who can't do what women have done for generations, what options do you actually have available to you beyond Tylenol? Tylenol has been around for 70 years, right? It is considered one of the safest drugs for pregnant women. If you can't use Tylenol, what are your options? I'll tell you. Some doctors will recommend low dose aspirin for other things like preeclampsia, but high dose aspirin, which is more than 300 milligrams a day, is not recommended for pain relief during pregnancy. So scratch that. You can't use aspirin. Well, you can't really use ibuprofen or NSAIDs as well because they are not recommended after 20 weeks due to the risk of low amniotic fluid, and they will absolutely ruin your baby's kidneys. They may also increase the risk of miscarriage or heart defects in early pregnancy. So you can't use that. Here's a fascinating group of drugs that are possibly worse. Opioids like codeine and oxycodone are linked to birth defects and stillbirths. In fact, a doctor will only prescribe those to you under strict supervision and in cases where they feel the benefit outweighs the risk. I've seen such a case before. Not fun. Not fun. Okay, some people are talking about CBD and herbal remedies. Well, we don't actually know what those will do to the baby as of now. The studies that are available, we don't know what those will do to the baby. So that brings us back to toughen it out. You can try massages, you can try stretching, acupuncture, maybe a little yoga, but ultimately you're toughing it out. Okay. So, and now I'm going to break character a little bit. This is where you start to see how irresponsible this statement is. There are just not that many options for women for pain management during pregnancy. Certainly very few that are well studied and have been used for as long as Tylenol has been used. My problem with this statement from Donald Trump is that it puts women in a very, very bad position. You either tough it out or you may be responsible for birthing an autistic child. That is not fair. That is simply not fair. And here's why this annoys me even more. They are making these recommendations based off of a study that found associations between prenatal acetaminophen use and increased rates of neurodevelopmental disorders like autism and ADHD. Acetaminophen is the active ingredient in Tylenol. And the key word there is that the study found associations between Tylenol and autism. They did not say that Tylenol causes autism. And what is the difference, you might ask? Well, association means two things occur together. You took Tylenol during pregnancy and you now have an autistic child. That does not mean that Tylenol caused the autism. It could have been any or a combination of factors like genetics or your environment or underlying health conditions. In fact, there was a paper from Sweden published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2024. I think it was 2024. It studied over 2.4 million children born in Sweden between 1995 and 2019. They even studied siblings to try and remove the genetic and environmental factors. Again, there was no causal link found between Tylenol and autism. You know what is very well supported in autism research? Genetics. Genetics accounts for 70 to 80% of autism risk. 70 to 80%. Environmental factors also increase the risk. For example, maternal infections, poor maternal nutrition, air pollution and toxic chemical exposure. But I don't expect Donald Trump to look into that last one. I mean, he just told Europe that their economy is going to hell because they won't use coal, basically. So not only is Donald Trump making a claim that is not supported in fact, you're sitting there as a pregnant woman with all this pain, and you now have to consider if a drug that has been on the market for 70 years will give your baby autism. But do you know how unmanaged pain can complicate your pregnancy? Persistent pain can increase cortisol and adrenaline, which may affect fetal development and increase the risk of preterm birth and low birth weight. If you're not sleeping well as well because of the pain that you may be feeling, that can also impair your immune function, which can cause other problems, right? Pain-related stress may also contribute to gestational hypertension as well, especially when you combine that with poor sleep. Look, I'm not a doctor just like Donald Trump is not a doctor, but I do got to say one thing before I end this video, right? I think people forget that medications must be balanced by risk to the mother and to the child. And that is why you have a doctor. Not a doctor like Donald Trump or me. I mean a real doctor with training and years of experience as a medical doctor. Hopefully one who isn't being actively lobbied to pump you full of drugs. Anyways, let's leave it there. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.